Welcome to Martin Monday's Intentional Intimacy, where love, life, and legacy meet in the moments that matter most. Every week, I will share sacred reflections of my 30-year marriage before Martin's passing, as well as our life now without him. May these reflections help us live with more weight, warmth, and wisdom. Martin was a letter carrier by profession, but a life carrier by purpose. So let's take a moment and let intentional intimacy speak. Good day, good day. Welcome to Martin Mondays, episode 31. This is Conception Conflicts. So, if you know by now, I have three sons. And those three sons in our story have all arrived at kind of different time. They MJ kind of came without planning. There was no planning with MJ. He was a surprise for us. Pure providence in that regard. Montgomery came 8 years after MJ. He was completely planned. And taught us kind of patience and me getting ready to have another child. So, and then there's Maxwell, my baby, who came 5 years after Montgomery. Now, before Maxwell was ever a heartbeat, or he was more hope than anything. And before hope, Maxwell was actually a plan. After two tries and two boys, I just knew that it was going to be my lot to have a daughter. And not just one daughter, but two. I was firmly believing God for twin daughters. You see, my grandmother was a twin. My husband was a twin. And I just believed that it was my lot um, to have twin girls. But I needed to plan it out. I'm a project manager. I'm a planner, right? So, having had children previously in May and in July, I thought it would be perfect to have Maxwell in June. That would be perfect. I wouldn't have to carry through the summer. School would be out. Life would be a little lighter. I wouldn't have to deal with that heavy heat in August. So I was planning conception to make sure that delivery would happen in June. I shared my plan with Martin, and he agreed. And once we were ready to start, I shifted into our best execution. I had all the dates mapped out on the calendar. I had my windows identified. I was carefully planning. Our effort was clearly measured. And so I remember those nights watching the clock, listening for, Martin coming home, already halfway into the moment. Like I was like, okay, got chop, chop. We got stuff to do. And wanting him there, of course, not just as my husband, but um, as that final variable. He was key. I needed his X's and not a Y. And so one night after we had tried, I kind of felt like the room, I don't know, I felt like there was something off in the room. And, you know, Martin was sitting up in the bed and he was just kind of like hugging himself and like rocking a little bit, and I'm like, you all right? I'm like, babe, what's wrong? And so he proceeds to tell me that, he was appreciative of all the extra attention, that I was giving him. And he felt that what he provided, though, kind of mattered more to me than being with him. And that our intimacy had begun to feel a bit more transactional, right? And so, I mean, it's intentional intimacy, right? And so at the end of the day, he said he felt used. Mm, used. Oh, well, I don't know if it was the middle of the night or I just was tired. I don't know, but I obviously did not receive what he said very gently. And I kind of laughed it off. Like, bro, get over it. Like, men have been doing this to women for years. It's okay. I don't think that was the right response. Martin's face told me everything before his words ever could. Yeah, that was not the right response. It wasn't theory to him. I had wounded him at that moment. And so I realized it and I apologized. Not the quick kind of apology, but it really came from me realizing that I crossed the line. And I apologized to him. I hugged him. I held him. And we just kind of laid there. And, I just, apologized to him. So eventually, of course, we tried again. But something has shifted and we were kind of off keter and our plan didn't work. And so I was disappointed because I had not gotten pregnant within the time window. And I was like, wow, okay. So the window had passed and I was like, man, what are we going to do? But then I realized later, a couple months later, I was pregnant. I'm like, oh my God. But the timing's off. Like, what in the world? Sure enough, I was pregnant with Maxwell. And instead of him being born in June, he was off season. Off season. He was a girl. He wasn't even twin girls. Wasn't even one girl. And he wasn't even in the right season. But Maxwell was born in November of that year of 2005. So I'll reflect on the other side. So as I reflect on conception conflicts, somewhere along the way, my desire turned into demand. And in doing that, the intimacy that we shared, it bent under the weight of my expectation. Um, I wasn't wrong for wanting another child. My desire wasn't wrong, but my execution was bad. I forgot something that was very, very sacred along the way. And that's that Martin was not just a means to an end. He was my partner. And I needed to treat him as such. And I needed to regard him well in that process. At the end of the day, our words matter, even the careless ones that we say, and especially the ones that we say when we just think that love will absorb the impact of them. Ephesians 4 and 29 says that every word that we speak is a gift. And so we've got to be very careful about our packaging. And sometimes it's the ones that we wish we could take back that are the problem. So we just have to be very mindful about what we say and how we say it, and even when we say it. So this week, I strongly encourage you to watch and to notice the words that you choose in conversations with your loved ones and with your friends, especially when you have a personal desire that may be present. Let your tenderness speak first, because remember, your words are birthing something. Prevent conception conflicts by speaking as if every word is a gift and wrapping it well. Take care. See you next week. Martin Mondays continues on Tuesday with the Tuesday Tea. Check it out and join me and take a sip. You know, Martin used to say a lot of things. Some were funny, some were wise, but one thing he often said was, wow. Wow. Just those 3 letters. It spoke volumes. It meant a lot when he didn't know what to say. Wow. When he was excited about something. Wow. When he was confused, perhaps, or even frustrated, he said, wow. And you know, he's still saying wow. Through this bracelet, he's still saying wow because he's still saying, may your whole life prove that God is good. And so in closing, that's my hope for you this week. May you have wow moments as you too are living out legacy. Live in the wow. Live in the reality of knowing that your whole life is good. Live in the heartbeat of Martin Mondays and intentional intimacy. May that anchor you in this week as you build legacy. One wow, one moment at a time. See you next week.